Yeah, hi. So yesterday we were talking about DDL commands, right? We saw create, we saw alter. I hope you're fine with the alter commands, right? Rename also we saw, right? So remember, DDL is it deals with the structure, right? So it's a structure. We are not talking about the data at all. Right. So when you say structure, we are talking about the table, empty table, right? So how to create an empty table, how to make changes to the table, right? So, and then, yeah, so we have to see drop. Truncate, we will see after we see DMLs, right? So drop command is used to remove a table that is already there. So we have only 2 tables in our database. Show tables. So I don't want to drop these. So what I'll do, I'll create a new table. Create table my tab ID integer ID integer and let's say name char of 20. Right. So now if I say show tables, so there are 3 tables in the database, right? So in the demo DB, there are 3 tables. So I'm going to drop the table called my tab, right? So to do that, we will say drop table my tab, right? So this will drop the table called my tab and we will be left with only patients and students, right? So only 2 tables will be available. So drop is used to remove a database object from the database. So now so these are the DDL commands. Truncate, we will come back, okay? So let's move on to the DML commands. So this is where we talk about the actual data, right? So DML commands. So here we will talk about the actual records. So we have seen one already, right? So which is the insert command. And then there is update and delete, right? So these are the 3 commands that are used to work with the actual data. So now if you see our students table, select star from students. Okay, so we have already two records are there inside this. So now if you want to put a new record, right? So if you want to add a record called, let's say, serial number 3, student ID 3, name is John, MySQL, 25 years, right? So 73 marks, for example. So when you want to put a completely new record into the table, right? So you say insert. Okay. If you want to make changes to a record that is already there, right? So let's say we have George is there already. So you want to change this to, let's say, some Pat or something. Or let's say George wants to change his course from MySQL to analytics. So if you want to make a change to something that is already there, you use update. Okay. And if you want to remove a record that is there in the table, you will use delete. Right. So as you can see, these 3 commands are working with the records within the table. So you can insert will put a completely new record into it. Update will make changes to records that are already there, right? And delete is used to remove a record. So one common mistake that people make is, see, you see some null values here, right? So here, if you want to put a value like some 25 or something, people think of it as insert, right? Because it's a null. It seems like logical to think of it as inserting a value. but actually you're not inserting. A record is already there. So if you're making a change to a record, you have to use the update command, right? So we have seen insert. We have seen one way of doing insert, right? So how do you insert? Let me remove all the unwanted columns, okay? So we will say alter table students, drop column. Which column I don't want? Student number I don't want. Student ID, student name, age I will drop, or yeah, age I will drop. Age and let's see. Select star from students. Yeah, let it be like this. So now in order to insert a record, we'll say insert into students, right? Values. And then you have to specify values in the same order in which you see the data here, right? So first you have to insert value for student ID. Then you will insert a value for the name. And then you have to insert a value for course. And then finally, you have to insert the value for marks, right? So here, anything other than numeric values, you have to give within quotes, right? So this is how you will put a record into the table. This is the first way of putting a record into the table. So you can see there are 4 columns in the table. And if you are using this way, right, so this method of inserting, then you have to give values for all the columns, all 4 columns you have to specify. Even if you don't know the value of one column, right? So let us say I know the student ID, I know the name, right? But I don't know what course he is taking. So if I'm using this way of insert, right, I have to specify all 4 values. So for course, I will specify null, right? Let's say I know what is the mark, right? So if I don't know a particular value, I can do this. I can say insert into students values for student name is, let's say Jim. I don't know what course he is taking, so I'll put null, right? So make sure you don't give it in quotes or anything. If you give it in quotes, it becomes a character data, right? Null has no data type, so you have to just put it as null. And let's say mark is 56, right? So now if you say select star from students, so you can see null has been inserted in the place of course, right? So this is the first way of inserting records, where you have to specify all columns, values for all columns in the table. Even if you don't know the value of a particular column, you have to specify null and give values for all 4 columns here, right? The second option is, if you don't know this value, right? So you can say insert into students, right? Instead of saying values immediately, you can say for the columns student ID, student name, and marks, right? We are going to put values, let's say 5, Tim, and 56, for example. Right? I hope you see the difference between this syntax and this syntax. If it is this syntax, what are we saying? We are saying insert into students. Immediately we say values, right? And then here we have to give values for all the columns in the table. All 4 columns you have to give values. right? If you are giving values for only few columns, then you can say insert into students. For these columns, insert values, these values. So 5 will be put into student ID, 10 will go into name, 56 will go into marks, right? So this is the second way of putting data. So what happens to course? We didn't mention course here, right? So in this case, we will be MySQL will put null, right? So we are not putting null into it. MySQL will take care of putting null value into it. In the previous way, what did we do? We specifically said put null, right? I hope you see the difference between these two. Are you fine with the differences? Right? If you're going to specify value for all columns, then you will say insert into student values. If you're going to give values only for a few columns, then you have to say for these columns, I'm going to give these values. Okay. So let's try this. So we'll say insert into students. For these columns, student ID, student name, and marks, right? We are going to give values 5, Tim, and 77, right? So now if you say select star from students, you can see null has been automatically put by MySQL, right? So we didn't specify null, but we didn't give null value here, right? But the MySQL has automatically put null into it. Are we fine with this? Can you try this? Can you insert one record using this method and try putting a value using this? And then we will go on to the third way. Are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, so the last one is where you can enter multiple records, right? So it's not necessary to do it one record at a time. So if you want to insert multiple records using the same insert command, you can just say insert into students, right? Values, let's say 6, Harry. Let's say he is learning magic and he has got 88 marks. So this is the first record, right? So now give a comma, open bracket, and give values for the next record, right? So let us say Potter. He is also learning magic and he's got 99 marks, right? Then give a comma, open bracket, give values for the third record, right? So 8, let's say Lara. Then let's say data science. Then some 66 marks and so on, right? So you can keep giving comma, then within bracket, give the next record. So how many other records you want to add, you can do that, right? And finally, once you're done with all the records, you will give a semicolon and enter. So this will put 3 records at a time, right? So Harry Potter and Lara all have been entered in at the same time, right? So this is the format that you will normally use if at all you are inserting multiple records. So with a single insert command, right? So you can put multiple values. So these are the 3 ways in which you can use the insert command, right? So now coming to update, when we want to make changes to records that are already there, right? So we will use update command. So when you're doing update and delete, the main thing is you have to correctly identify the record, right? So which record do we want to modify? So correctly identifying the record is very important. Otherwise, we might end up updating the wrong record, right? So let's say George wants to change from MySQL to analytics. So if you don't correctly select the record, you might end up changing Harry's mark or something, right? So we have to correctly identify the record. So to do that, we use the where condition or the where clause. So where is used to identify which record that we want to modify, right? So where followed by some condition. So this condition is the one that will tell us which is the record that we want. So when you say condition, you can use student ID, right? So you can say change the record for student ID 1, or you can use column name, right? So you can say change the name, change the data for student name Tom. Or you can use course, right? So update something, change the marks for all people who are taking the course as analytics. So you can use any of these columns to identify a record, right? But we have to make sure that we are using the right column so that we get the correct record. So if I want to change I want to change the name of Tom to Thomas. Right? So which record do I want to change? I want to change the third record. So how can I identify Tom? I can either use student ID, right? I can say change the record where the student ID is 3. Or I can change the record where student ID to student name is Tom. I can't say course, right? So if I say change the record where student ID is course, then both records will get changed. Right. So similarly, mark is not a good thing to do because multiple people might have the same mark, right? So usually it is the ID that you will use to correctly identify a record. So I want to change Tom to Thomas, right? So what we will do, we will say update the students table, right? Set the value of name to be equal to Thomas. Now we specify the where condition, right? So where the student ID is equal to 3, right? So this will work in the reverse way, right? It will first identify the record 3. Then it will set the name column to Thomas, right? So this will change it to Thomas in the students table, right? So first identify the record, make the change in this table, right? So it goes this way. So this is the format of your update command. Update which table, set the value of which column to what value, and where is the most important one, right? If you make a mistake here, you might end up updating the wrong records, right? So let's try this. We will say update students. And by the way, when you're typing, it's better to type it in 3 lines like this, right? So that it is easy to read. And yeah, that is the convention that is used. So update students, set the value of student name to be equal to Thomas, where student ID is equal to 3, right? So now it says 1 row affected, right? 1 changed. So let's see whether it has changed it correctly. So if you say select star from students, you can see Tom, Tom has been changed to Thomas, right? Can you do something? Can you set Harry's mark to, from 88, you change it to 95? Can you write the command to do this?
Hello, ma'am.
Rishali, you have to give the where condition, no?
Yes, ma'am. I accidentally
Now
entered.
what happened? Everything would have changed to 95. Everybody's mark will be 95 now. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have the record of Harry in your table, but can you tell me the command? Yeah. So Rani, you're right. Update students. One way is I can use student ID, right? Update students, set the value of marks to be equal to 95, where student ID is equal to 6. This is one way. What if I want to use the student name to identify? Then I can say update students, set the value of marks is equal to 95, where student name is equal to Harry, right? Remember, MySQL is not case sensitive. So even if I give it like this, it'll understand, right? So Harry. So I can use the student name to make the change, right? So whichever way you want, you can do that. Okay. So now tell me the command. You can just, if you don't have, you can just type it in chat. I want to set the value of marks to be equal to 0 wherever there is no course, right? So where course has null value in it, right? So these two people, we don't have course, right? So I don't want marks here. I want you to set it to 0. So wherever course has null values, set the mark to be equal to 0. Update students. Okay, that's just one line. Then Can you tell me the command? I will write. Update students where course is equal to null, right? So Rishali says, update students set marks is equal to 0. Okay, let's try that. So update students, set the value of marks to be equal to 0, where Ankita, not where marks is equal to null. I wanted where course is equal to null, right? Where, yeah, but your command is fine. The format is, yeah, where course is equal to null. Let us see if this works. See, it says 0 rows affected, right? So 0 changed. So nothing has changed here. Okay. So if at all you guys are getting safe update mode error, right? Run this command first. Type this command, right? So set SQL underscore safe underscore mode is equal to 0. Type this first and then safe update mode, I think. SQL underscore safe underscore updates. One second. Let me check. I always forget that. I'll paste it here so that you can. Yeah, safe updates. Just those of you who are using Workbench, type this command, execute this first, and then try your update commands. Right. Okay. Yeah, coming back to this, right? So we see that it is saying 0 rows affected, right? So nothing has changed here. Can you tell me why this did not change? Why marks did not become 0?
Maybe because there are 2 nulls.
Actually, it should, right? Whichever records satisfy the where condition, it should work. Remember, our null is a special case. We said yesterday equal to will not work. What happened when we tried to compare something to null? We got null only, right? So we didn't get true or false. So what we have to do only is null will work. So instead of saying course is equal to null, you have to say where course is null. Right? So that will correctly identify your records. So course is null. Now it says 2 rows affected. Right? So now check this. Wherever the course is null, the value has become equal to 0. Right? So whenever you are using null, you should be careful. Is null and is not null are the 2 things that you can use. Right? Okay. So this is how you use the update command. So if you want to update multiple columns at the same time, right? So let us say Jim wants to change his course to, let's say, some dance. And we want to change his mark to 55. So 2 columns we want to change for this record, right? So we can say update students, right? So we will say set the value of course is equal to dance, and then give a comma and say marks is equal to 55, right? And then you can say where. Right, so like this, any number of columns can be changed at the same time. Right, so instead of Jim, let us say we want to change it to James. So student name is equal to James. Right, so like this, any number of columns can be changed at the same time. Then give the where condition, right? So where student ID is equal to 4. Okay, so let's try this. So we'll say update students, right? Set the value of course is equal to dance, comma, marks is equal to how much? 55 is it? 55, comma, student name is equal to James. Then you can give the where clause where student ID is equal to student ID is equal to, what was that? 4. Right. So now you can see, select. So name has been changed to James, course changed to dance, and mark changed to 55. Right. So multiple columns can be updated at the same time. Multiple rows can be updated at the same time. Right. Using the update command. So last thing, right? So can you just update? Right. So can you change marks to 0? Right. So set the value of marks to 0 wherever marks is null now. Right. Wherever you have marks as null, I want you to change it to 0. Write this query and tell me. Yeah, you are right. Rani has written. How about the others? Yeah, Ankita, you're also right. Right, so all you have to do is, so you can change the same column, right? So I can use marks in the where clause, and I can change marks also at the same time, right? So I can say update students, set the value of marks to be equal to 0, right? So where earlier marks was null, right? So I can use it here and here. So wherever marks was null, set it to 0 now, right? So it's not that you have to use a different column. You can use the same column for identify the record and then to change it also, right? So this is how you can change the, set the marks to be equal to 0 here, right? So, so this is how you can write your update commands. So we have seen, what will happen if you don't specify the where clause? If I say update student, set marks is equal to 0, right? I didn't specify the where condition.
All marks will be
Set to
0.
0.
So whenever you don't specify a condition, MySQL will think you mean the entire table, right? So everywhere the marks will get 0, right? So let's try that. We will say update. So you should be careful if by mistake you enter without typing the where clause, right? So then you will end up losing your data. So update students, set marks is equal to 0, right? So without any where clause. So it says 7 rows affected. You can see all the records have been changed to 0. So wherever you don't specify the where clause, MySQL will understand it to be the entire table, and all marks will be changed. Okay, so these are the three ways in which you can use your update command. You can use it to update a single column. You can update multiple columns at the same time. You can omit the where clause and then update the entire table with a particular value. Right. So this is your update command. Right. So the last one is delete. Right. So again, to delete a record, you have to correctly identify the record. So we will say delete from students. Then you give the where clause, where student ID is equal to 8. Right. So in that case, Lara's record will be deleted. Right. So delete from students, then the where clause, that's all. The other option is you can say delete from students, but don't give any where clause. If you don't give any where clause, what happens? All the records will be deleted. You will end up with an empty table, right? Let's first try this. We will say delete from students, where let's delete everybody who's learning magic, for example, right? So where course is equal to magic. So in this case, 2 records are removed. So Harry and Potter are gone, right? So we have only 6 records in the table. The next option is you can just say delete from students, but don't specify a where clause. 6 rows are deleted, right? All records are gone from the table. You have an empty table. Table is there, right? So the empty table is there, but there is no records inside it, right? So if you take the example of house and people, delete from table, delete from students means you're asking all the people in the house to leave the house, right? So that means you are left with the empty house, right? So the end result is you have an empty house. Here also you have an empty table, right? Can you try deleting one record and then try deleting all the records? Try these 2 commands and then let me know. Let me know when you're done.
Done.
Okay. Fine. So finally, if you see one thing that is pending from our DDL command is the truncate command. Yeah. Truncate will do almost the same thing. Let me insert some records. Yeah. Let me insert some records into it. So now I have 3 records in my table, right? So now if I say truncate students, right, you will see again it's the same thing, right? So all the records from the table have been removed. Okay, so truncate and delete will do almost the same thing. The end result is that you end up with the empty table, right? But the thing is, truncate is a DDL command. So DDL means it's not supposed to touch the data, right? It is only for the structure. But then what truncate will do is truncate internally executes two commands. One is drop table students, right? And then it will create table students. What will happen when you drop the table? The table and the contents will be gone, right? Again, when you create table, when you say create table students, an empty table will be created. So the final result for this and this is that you end up with an empty table without any records inside it. Is this fine? I hope you got the difference between delete from students and truncate students. What is the difference? Delete from table basically asks people to leave the house, right? So we are asking these people to get out of the house, right? So that we end up with an empty house. In the case of truncate, what are we doing? We are demolishing the house, right? So the table itself is dropped. So the people inside it, the house, everything is gone. And then again, we create the table. Again, when we create the table, we end up with an empty table, right? So we end up with an empty house in this case. So the final result is the same, but what happens internally is different. Here only the records are removed. Here the table itself is deleted and a new table is created. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is why one common question is, why is truncate in the DDL category? So it is in the DDL category because it is executing two DDL commands. This is a DDL, this is a DDL. That's why truncate is a DDL. Whereas delete is a DML command because it works only on the data. Okay, this is deleted, right? So that is the difference between truncate and delete. So which one should you use?
Delete.
Why?
If we want to remove some data, then we have to use delete. If we want to remove all the data, want to create a new table, then we have to use truncate.
The thing is, we have not learned still about other database objects like indexes, views and all, right? So it is possible to create some objects on the table. You can create an index, right? So you can create a view on the table. So what happens with the truncate is all the objects that are on the table will also get dropped, right? So whereas here, these are still retained. In this case, these additional objects also get dropped and you get a completely fresh table, right? So this is completely fresh. Not just the records, but all the objects on it also has been removed. Whereas here, nothing is touched, right? So these objects and all remain alive. Only the data is touched. So if your intention is to completely remove everything from the table, including some additional objects on it, go for truncate, right? Later on, when we look at sequence, index and all, you will understand this better, right? So truncate will remove everything, right? So all the objects on it, everything gets recreated fresh. Whereas here, only the records are removed, right? So none of the other objects are touched. So if you want a completely fresh start, right? So all objects and all should be removed from the table, then go for truncate. Otherwise, just delete the records. That should be enough. Okay. So now we are done with DDL and DML. Right. So this three we have seen, truncate also seen. So we are done with DDL and DML. So we can go into DQL, right? So this is where like we said, 95% of the time you will be using the select command only. So there are different ways in which you can use your select. You can select from one table, you can select from two tables, you can select from multiple tables, you can group records, right? So all those can be done using select. One thing to remember is whatever you do with select, it will not affect the actual data. This is only for display purpose, right? So you will only display the data with select. This will not change the contents at all, whereas this will change the contents of the table, right? So this changes the content. This is only for display. It will not touch the actual data. Okay. So before we go for select, I will share this practice tables with you. It is there on LMS also, but I think this might have some 1 or 2 tables additional, just to be sure, right? So I will share it here. Analytics, MySQL. So download it on your local and let me know. Don't double click on it, it will not work. Download the file. And then you have to use your workbench. Have you downloaded?
Yes.
Okay, so now go to File and say Open SQL Script. Right. File, Open SQL Script. Go to the place where you have downloaded the practice tables. Select it and say Open. So you will see this file. File, Open SQL Script. Select the practice tables and say Open. Right. So now in the first line, you can type use demo DB. Or if you're using a different database, you give the name of your database. So I'm using demo DB. So you say use demo DB. Make sure that none of the records are selected. Okay, don't highlight anything like this. Right, so no line should be selected. Make sure everything is deselected. And now click on the use this lightning button. Just above use, you have the lightning button. You click on that. And you will see something like this. Okay. So now if you click on the refresh button on the left side, under tables, you should be able to see so many tables. Can you do this and let me know?
Done, ma'am.
Okay. Others, anybody facing issue?
Can you please tell again? Repeat.
Okay. You say file. Workbench.
No, I have opened the file.
Just type use demo DB in the first line. Then make sure that none of the lines are selected and click on the lightning button.
Ma'am, once can repeat this, how to file open.
Can you share your screen? I'll give you access. Okay, open this first. No. Open the workbench. Click on that local instance. Here in the middle, it is there, no? Under MySQL, in the middle of the screen. Local instance. Yeah, click on it. Hold on. Okay, maximize this. No, maximize it. Don't go to database and all. No, don't do anything like that. Just maximize it. Okay. Hold on. Can you give me control? So click on the last button here and go to the query tab. You have not connection not established. I think you have not either installed the server or it's not running. Server is not running. Smart server is not working. So I think it is, we have to check your installation. I think it's not installed. Can we check it out later? Because your this thing is not installed only. Okay. Did you? It's hanging. Can you close your workbench? I'm not able to control it. Are you there? Okay, let me stop his sharing. Okay. Deepak, I don't know what is, can you share? Let us see what is your issue. Can you give me control? Okay. Yeah, see, don't double click on that .sql file, right? If you double click on it, it will not connect to the server. So this is how you need to open SQL script. go to the place where you downloaded this, open. And in the first line, you have to say use demo DB and click on the lightning button. Yeah, so now if you refresh this and you check the tables, you will see many tables have been created, right? So let me minimize. It's not minimizing. Yeah. Everything else you minimize and we use only the demo DB. Right, so learn DB and all you can. Yeah. Fine, it's loaded now. Okay. Don't double click on the .SQL file. It will not connect to the database. It will only open the file. Right. Okay, so let us start with select. Right, so select is the only command under DQL, right? And it is used to read the contents of a table, right? To see or display. Just one moment. So if you see, there is a table called myEMP, right, on your database. So we'll be using that a lot. Select star from myEMP, right? So when you say star, it means select all, select everything, right? So this means select everything from myEMP table. So if you execute this, you will see there are 106 records in the table, right? And all the records and all the columns are displayed here. So star basically means select everything, right? So if you don't want to select everything, right, and you want to see only a few records, right? So usually when you look at a new table, right, so you don't want to just say select star because there might be millions of records in a table, right? So in that case, it will keep scrolling. So instead, what you can do is you can say show the first 3 records or show me the first 5 records, right? So to do that, you will say select from myEMP, but limit it to 5 records, right? So this will show the first 5 records in your table, right? So let's try that. So we'll say select star from myEMP, limit it to 5 records. Right, so as you can see, it shows only the first 5 records in your table, right? So this is a better way when you are when you want to take a look at a new table. So here you can see the column names, and side by side you can see what values are there in those columns, right? So there are 10 columns here: the employee ID, first name and last name, the email, the hire date, what job they are doing, salary, their commission, the manager, right? So the manager ID for this employee and to which department they belong. So these are the 10 columns, right? So star will select all the columns and all the rows. But if you want to see only a few columns, right? So you can specify that. You can say select only the first name, last name, and let's say job ID and salary, right? So these are the only columns we are interested in. So we will select only those columns, right? And if you want, you can show all the records, or you can say limited to 10 records, right? So this will show only the first 10 records. I didn't say from myEMP, and limited to 10 records, right? So you can select it in whatever order you want, what you want to do first, what you want to select second, right? So you can change the order. You can select job ID first, and then the last name, and then first name, and then maybe salary, right? So you can just change the order. So like I said, it's only for from my EMP. And let's limit it to 10 records. So it's only for display purpose, right? So it's not changing the table. So this is why the actual order of data in the table is not important to us. If you want to see it in any specific order when you're selecting, you can just give that order here, right? So this is how you can select specific columns from the table. So the next option is, let us say I want to look at the bonus, right, which is 20% of the employee's salary, 20 by 100, right, or this into 0.2. So this is the bonus that every person will get. So if I want to see what is 20% of salary, right, so this person will have 4,800, right, so this person will have 3,400, right, so these are the bonuses that these people will be getting. So if I want to see that also, I can say I can say select. What do I want? Let us say I want the first name, last name, salary, and I want to select salary into 0.2 from my EM. Right, again, let me limit it to 10 records. So here you can see this, what you see here is not a column in the actual table, right? So you don't have a column called salary into 0.2. So this is what you would call a derived column. So based on the columns that are there in the table, we are deriving a new column like this, right? So it is possible to select something that is not there in the table. Based on, you can select columns based on what you already have, right? So salary into 0.2 will be our bonus. So somebody looking at it may not understand that this is the bonus, right? So by default, what happens, whatever you give here will be given as the name of the column. Instead, what you can do, you can give an alias name, right? Instead of salary into 0.2, I want to display this as bonus, right? So this is called an alias name. So let us try that. So now the same thing. Instead, I will say this as bonus. The keyword as is, this is optional. You can just say bonus also, right? So even then it will work. So now you see, anybody looking at the result will know that what you have calculated here is the bonus, right? Although there is no column called bonus in the actual table, you are able to select it. So can you write this, right? So I want bonus and I also want the total salary, total underscore salary. When you're giving column names, don't give spaces, right? You can give underscore, right? I want the total salary also, which is 2,000, this plus 4,800, right? So 28,800 or something, 800. So I want something this like this. Can you write a query to do this? Yeah. Shobha, you're right. I hope the others have written. Yeah, Vishali, you're also right. So all you have to do is you will say this, and the next column we want salary plus salary star 0.2 as total underscore sal. Right, so now you get a new column called total underscore sal, and you get the corresponding. Let us see. Yeah. So you get a column called total underscore sal, right? And you get the total salary here, right? So this is what you call a derived column, and these are alias names for column, right? So column aliases. So this is a column alias. Okay. So now coming to the department, right? So if you see the table, there is a column called department. Select star from my EMP, limited to 10 records. Yeah, so you have a column called department. So here, so you have department 90, department 60, 100. So if I want to know what departments are there in the table, in the table, what departments are there, right? So if I want to know all the departments and department ID, if I say select a department ID from my EMP, I will get 106 records, right? So it will just give you the departments of every person in the company. But what I want to know is, I want to know there is a department called 90, something called 60, something called 100, right? So what I want to do is I want to select the unique values from the department column. So if you want to do this, what you use is you use the distinct keyword, right? So distinct is used to select unique values from a specific column, right? So I can say select distinct department ID from my EMP. So it will give you unique values from the department ID column. So there are 11 departments in the company, right? So distinct followed by the column name. Can you find out what all job roles are there? What job roles are there in the company? Write a query to do this. Find the job roles in the company. Yeah, but you don't have to give a bracket, Rani. You can just specify distinct followed by the column name. Right, so we can say select distinct job ID from my EM. So these are the jobs available. President, vice president, programmer, finance manager, right? So some clerks, sales manager, sales representative, right? So these are all the marketing manager, marketing representative. So these are the different job roles that are supported in the company, right? Yeah. So now we have so if you give a distinct followed by one column, right, it gives you all the unique values in this particular column. But what if you give two columns, right? So if you say select distinct department ID, comma, manager ID, right, from my EMP. Now what will happen? What will we get if I give two columns here? So if you give one column, right, so within the column, all unique values will be selected. But if you give two columns, right, so then what happens is it will select the unique combination, right, unique combination of department and manager. So department can be repeated, manager can be repeated, but the combination of department and manager will not repeat, right? So in department 100, let's say there is department 10, there is a manager 100. In same department, there is one more manager called 101, right? So 10 can be repeated, but this combination will not be repeated. Similarly, in department 20, manager might be 100. Department 20 might have 101 as the manager. So again, you can see department is repeating, managers are repeating, but the combination of department and manager will not repeat. So whenever you give multiple columns after distinct, we are looking for a unique combination of these two, right? So in your table, in your database, there is a table called person. Select star from person. Oh. So here, what will happen if I say select a distinct first name? What will I get?
Get unique names, not the repetitive ones.
Yeah, or what will we get in this table?
You get John, Tom.
Yeah, we will get John and Tom.
Yeah.
What if I say select distinct last name? We'll get Perry.
Perry, Peters, England, and Cruz.
Yeah, England and Cruz. Right, so this is a distinct last name. But if I say select distinct first name, comma, last name, right? So this is a unique combination. John Peters is a unique combination. John England is a unique combination. Tom England, Tom Cruise. This is repeated, this is repeated, right? So if I say select distinct first name, comma, last name, this combination, unique combination is what will be selected, right? So let us say select distinct F name, comma, L name from a person. So you can see distinct combinations are selected, right? So although John is repeated here and England is repeated here, the combination is not repeated, right? So that is what happens when you give multiple columns after distinct. You can give any number of columns, right? So if I give 3 columns, we are looking for unique combination of the 3 columns, right? So that is what your distinct will do. It will select a distinct combination of whatever columns are there. If you have only one column, then distinct values from that column, right? Okay, there is a table called cats in your database. So select star from cats. Can you find the unique breeds? Find unique breeds of cats. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So we'll say select distinct breed from cats, right? So there are 4 breeds here, right? So those are selected using the distinct breed, right? So it will select unique values from your column. So the next thing we can see is how to arrange the records, right? So how to order the records. So if you see by default, right? So if you see the records that are there in any table, right? So let's say star, do we have anything in students? No. Okay, my EMP only will do. Select star from my EMP. So you can see by default, the order in which the records are displayed is the same order in which records are entered into the table, right? So in this case, they have entered records based on employee ID. So you can see the records are ordered or arranged based on employee ID. But this ordering can be changed, right? What if I want to select based on order department ID? I want to see everyone from department 10, then people from department 20, then people from department 30, and so on, right? So I can order the records based on the department ID column. So in this case, what will happen? You won't, okay, let's say select star from my EMP, order by DEP ID, right? So this by default will arrange your records in ascending order of department ID, right? When you say ascending order, the smallest to the largest, right? So 10, then 20, then 30, then 40, then 50. So this is the ascending order, right? So the records, so now the employee IDs are all jumbled. We have ordered it based on the department ID now. What if I want to arrange it in descending order? I have to say order by department ID, but you have to also say descending, DESC, right? By default, it is AASC. If you want, you can write AASC or you can leave it out, right? But for descending, you have to specify DESC, right? So let us arrange it in descending order. So, yeah. So you can see department ID 110 is at the top, right? And 10 is at the bottom. Is there a table called marks? Or this? Okay. From your cats table, can you order the record, right? Such that you have the cats from youngest to the oldest. Arrange the cats in this order so that you have the youngest cat at the top and the oldest one at the bottom. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. How about the others? Yeah, that's right. So most of you have written it correctly. So we'll say select star from cats, order by age, right? If you want, you can say ascending, but not required, right? So it will arrange it from youngest to oldest. So if you have numeric data, right? So by default, it will arrange from smallest to the largest. What if you have alphabetical data, character data? Then it will arrange it in alphabetical order, right? So starting from A to Z. If you have date type of column, it will arrange from earliest to the latest, right? So can you arrange the cats in alphabetical order? Alphabetical order of name. Yeah. Someone else. Yeah. Right. So if you say order by name, by default, it will arrange it in ascending order of names, alphabetical order, right? So selects star from cats, order by name. Oh. It starts from A to P. Okay, fine. So now, so last thing, right? So let us take our employee table. Select star from my EMP, limited to 10 records. Okay, so I want you to arrange the records based on the junior most person should be at the top and the senior most person should be at the bottom. Right, arrange this so that the most junior person is at the top and the most senior person is at the bottom of the table. Rani, will this give you the junior most person at the top?
Taken by the higher date joining date, I'll also have to look into the table columns now. I'll just do it again.
Sakshi also. Will it be the junior most person at the top?
Wait,
No, I got
Yeah.
it.
So what you have to do?
Put a descending.
Yeah, you have to order it in descending. Yeah, that's right, Shobha. So order by higher date, but descending order, right? So only then, otherwise it is earliest to the latest. So we want the latest higher date at the beginning. Yeah, that's right. Right, so select star from my EMP, order by higher date, descending, right? So in this case, you can see the earliest person, the most senior person is the one who joined in 1976. And the most senior person is the one, sorry, junior person is the one who joined in 2019, right? Okay. Can you order employees within each department based on seniority? So again, the junior most person should be at the top, senior most should be at the bottom, but within each department, I want this ordering. In department 10, this is the junior most and senior most. In department 20, this is the junior most and senior most. Yeah. Right. So what you can do is you can arrange based on two columns, right? So you can say order by department ID, comma, hire date, right? So if you do this, what will happen is it will first arrange the records based on department ID, and within each department, it will arrange based on hire date, right? So in this case, both will be arranged in ascending order. If you want this to be ascending and this to be descending, you can say department ID and hire date descending, right? If you want this to be descending and this to be ascending, so whichever way you want, you can just specify, right? So this also descending, this also descending. So whenever you give two columns, first this will be ordered, and within that, the second one will be ordered, right? So let's try that. Select order by department ID ascending, or we can leave out ascending, right? So now you can see within each department, right? So you can see within this department, 30 people have been arranged in
Descending.
Descending order of, is it descending order? Yeah, it has been arranged in descending order of hire date, right? Then again, within this department, here also it is in descending order, right? And so on. So first it will order based on this, and within that it will arrange this, right? So this is true everywhere, whether you are selecting distinct, whether you are ordering, whether you are grouping. So the column that you specify first will be done, and within that, the next columns will be ordered. Okay, so this is how you can arrange records in ascending and descending order. I think. So the next thing we have to see is how to select records, right? So how to write the where clause when it comes to select, right? So where clause is used to identify records. So just like we did in update and delete, you can use where clause in your select also, right? So the where clause will select the record. What you want to do with it, that is, if you say update along with where clause, you identify the record and make changes to it. If you say delete and then where clause, identify the records and delete it, right? If you say select and where clause, identify the records and display it. Right, so where clause is basically used to identify records, or you say filter the records. Right, so filter the records based on certain criteria. So if I want to see only people belonging to department 30, right, so in that case I can say select star from my EMP where DPID is equal to 30. Right, so this will select all the people belonging to department 30 only. Yeah. Yeah, if you say employee ID is equal to 100, it will select only that particular employee, right? But till now, whenever we are writing these queries, we have used only equal to, right? So it's not just equal to, you can use other conditions also. I can say greater than. I can select all people who get a salary greater than 10,000, right? Or I can use less than, I can use greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to, right? So not equal to can be written like this or like this, right? It's not just equal to, there are other operators that you can use, right? So what are the operators? We will have equal to, we have seen. So if I want to find everybody whose salary is greater than 10,000, what do? We say select star from my EMP where salary greater than 10,000. Right, so these are the people who get a salary greater than 10,000. Yeah. Greater than 20K, I think there is only 1%. So let's make it 10,000. What will happen if I say greater than or equal to 10,000? What's the difference between this and this?
It will include 10,000 also in this.
Yeah, this is 10,000 and more, right? This is just greater than 10,000. Okay, right. Similarly, you can find people who get less than 15K, right? So all those less than, greater than you can write. Can you do something? Can you find all employees who were hired after year 2000? Right? Who joined the company after 2000? That is from 2001 onwards, whoever were hired. I want those people. Let's not use functions and all at the moment, right? Without using functions, just the operators. Did you write? Okay. Still trying?
Can I use order by descending and then
And then
limit to 1 or something? I'm not sure. I'll try. Well,
yeah, Vrishali, that should work. Don't think very complicated, right? How do I know people were hired after 2000? Generally, if you look at this column,
Date
how
of
will you,
hiring. Through hire date.
through hire date, but then how do I know that these people were hired after 2000? The date is more than 31/12/2000, right?
Yeah.
yes.
So we just have to select those records where hire date is greater than 2012/31, right? So that should give us everybody who was hired after 2000. I don't know if anybody was hired after 2000. Let's see. Select star from my EMP where hire date greater than 2012/31. Yeah. So these are the people who were hired after 2000, right? So greater than, less than can be used with the date, numbers. It can be used with the character also, but it will not make any sense, right? It's better to limit it to numbers and dates. Okay, so these are some of the operators that we can use. So tomorrow we will look at some special operators like, between, in, and all that, right? So I think today we can stop here.